So it's very important for us to oppose Nestle's attempt to get access to the water of wells and continue its expansion in Maine and New England generally. This company is a voracious water miner. They're water hunters, I call them actually, and people need to remember that they go into a community and put up a plant right by an aquifer or a spring, and then they just they drain it till it's gone. And we found with this situation here in the United States and around the world that the water table just continues to go down, and when it's no longer viable for the company, they move on. We have safe, clean, regulated water coming out of our taps. We've already paid through our taxes to make it clean and pure and regulated and safe. It's crazy to be then allowing our water to be bottled and put in plastic and shipped around the world. People need to remember that something in the framework of 50 to 60 billion gallons of water were put in small plastic bottles, like something like 250 billion bottles of this stuff last year around the world. Globally, only 5% of that gets recycled. I think it's something like 35% in North America. So, I mean, we are putting billions and billions and billions and billions of plastic, which is fossil fuels and chemicals, into the ground, into the wetland. It ends up in those big plastic gyres in the ocean. It is absolutely insane and not economically or ecologically sensible. We need to return to supporting safe public water and to say no to bottled water and to say no to the request by these big companies to come in and take our water. Now, what Nestle's lawyers are claiming is that the trade agreements through the World Trade Organization and the North American Free Trade Agreement do not impact on the situation in Maine. That is absolutely untrue. It is true what they say, that through the WTO, if a country has a beef with the behavior of another country or a subnational government, it's the country they have to go after. But that doesn't mean that any regulation in a local community is protected. Yes, it would be Washington they go after, but it would be because Maine perhaps changed its mind and said, you're taking too much water and we're going to remove your rights. So, and there are many water-related services under the General Agreement on Trade and Services, and the General Agreement on Trade and Services is still being negotiated. And there are many countries that want to put drinking water right in there and access to water right in there. The North American Free Trade Agreement is the more dangerous agreement, and I noted that the trade lawyer for Nestle didn't even want to get into it very much. NAFTA basically not only gives corporations the rights to water, but it gives them the right to sue if you change your mind. So, for instance, if it's a Canadian company or even an American company that goes and registers in Canada and then under its Canadian name starts to apply for water, bottled water in Maine or any other place in the United States, and then the state says, wait a minute, our water systems are being drained, you are taking down far too much water, we have to cut your water access in half, or they might even tell them to leave altogether. Those companies would actually have the right to sue for financial compensation, and is up to the potential millions and even billions of dollars. Now, the trade lawyer for Nestle pointed to some cases that the United States won. I can point to some cases where Canada lost, and the Americans have to remember that the United States is the big player on the block, and so the NAFTA panels do tend to go in favor of the United States, but that does not mean it always would happen. We have an American company, Abitibi-Bowater, suing Newfoundland, or Canada, for Newfoundland's behavior because the company has pulled out. It was a pulp and paper company that with operations in Newfoundland. It pulled out. Now it's claiming huge compensation, millions and millions of dollars, because it says it owns the water it used to use. The Newfoundland government says, no, you don't. That's our water. You get to use it when you were making jobs here, but you don't get to use it permanently. These NAFTA challenges are insidious. The vast majority of them are around the environment. They can hold up everything in court, even in the end, if you do win for years and years. It is a very, very powerful tool on the part of the big corporations, and people need to remember that. My message to people would be that you have a beautiful supply of groundwater in Maine. You must protect it. You must protect it as a public commons. You must protect it in watersheds. What we're learning all over the world is that if we don't take care of our water and watersheds, we are not going to be here as a species. We are displacing water from where it was put by nature to produce a healthy ecosystem, a healthy hydrologic cycle, because we need water in the ground to produce a healthy rainfall. If you remove that, you create desert. The rain blows away. That's why so much of the world's becoming desert. We need to protect these watersheds. They are the inheritance for generations to come. They have as much right to that water as we do, and we need to protect it so that we have abundance of water for our economic prosperity, to grow our food, and to give us the quality of lives that we have, but only if we care for the natural world around us. Say no to Nestle. It's a very dangerous thing to let Nestle in your community. Once they get a foothold, they want more and more and more. They've done it all over the world. They're water hunters. My advice is to say no before they get their foot in the door. Because it doesn't matter who owns the water, whether it's privately owned or publicly declared a public trust in Maine, that the regulations in Maine are such that people don't need to worry about Nestle getting hold of it. That's absolutely untrue. First of all, regulations can change with a different government. And when big, powerful companies get into a state like Maine, and they hire people and then their employers, they can go to the government and say, we want you to change these regulations because they're interfering in our business. And this happens everywhere all over the world. So regulations can change. If you determine that water is a public trust that belongs to everyone, as Vermont has done with its ground and surface water, and then they allow people to use it, it's not that you're going to go take it away from anybody or take it away from farmers. It's just that you assert that they don't have water property rights. The water under the ground and in the rivers and streams belongs to all the people of Maine, and it's regulated on their behalf by government. Then you are protecting that water for years and years to come, and if Nestle or anybody else is abusing it, the government has the right to say no, to turn the tap off, or to at least bring them into line, in terms of the regulations that people want to assert. If, however, you move to private property rights and the private water sale, as they've done in Chile and Australia, trust me, I've watched it. Not only do you lose your water systems to private sector interests, but I'm telling you, you lose to big international investors. They privatized water rights in Australia, and now great big international investors are buying up water. So it's not only not Australian people's water anymore, it's not even in Australian private hands. So what we must have, we must assert the notion that water is a part of our common heritage, to be not just used and loved by us, but also that we need to be responsibly taking care of it. We have to manage it well. But it's a public trust, a human right, and also a right, frankly, of the ecosystem and other species. So it's very clear that we can keep and take care of this water forever if we take certain basic steps. And it is not true that there's no difference between whether it's a public trust or private right. Once it's a private right, companies like Nestle are going to walk in and control it, I promise you.